Here's another really fun unboxing we get to do. Just like with the windlass, you know, when we go hunting for sponsors, I have a list of companies that I would prefer to go with. These people were at the top of my list. Seafrost Marine, they build refrigeration and freezers for boats. And I have used these in the past, both on our previous boat, we had a Seafrost, and I've installed them on a bunch of other boats that I was working on as well. And I've always been really impressed with the work that they do. Cleve is at Seafrost, and he was very eager to help work with us. And like I said, I'm very excited to install this. This is going to be the freezer on board. Cool.
No pun intended.
Yeah, totally. I'm curious to see what's in here. Cabling. Ah, sweet.
I don't know what that is, but I'm glad it makes you happy.
It is the monitor, it's the controller for the compressor. Electronic thermostat and thermometer with speed control. Beautiful. This is the compressor unit. And then the last cooling plate. So the goal this week is to get the freezer finished, and that includes finishing the freezer box, as well as installing the freezer itself, which includes installing the compressor, the cold plates, and a lot of the cabling and plumbing that goes with it. I know people think of me as a boat builder, but I think that I've been misunderstood.
What on earth are you talking about?
Well, my true calling is as a foot model.
Matt, I really don't think our viewers want to see your feet again.
I think you're wrong, especially when they see these socks. I really like these socks, and I want to thank Camel City Mill for sponsoring this episode. I've been wearing these socks for a year now.
Ew, the same pair? That is not hygienic, honey.
You know what I mean. What you see here are not new socks. They're in great shape after a year of heavy use because they're made of Ironside merino wool. It's a proprietary blend of merino wool that's spun in a way that they're 2 times more durable compared to regular merino wool.
Yeah, but what are these white spots on them?
Well, I was painting in the systems room with my Crocs on. In addition to being durable, they wick sweat 35% better than cotton and polyester, which keep my feet dry and comfortable through a long workday. This is a great time of year to fill up your sock drawer because they're having their biggest sale of the year for Black Friday. Use the link below the video, which will also pin as a comment, to get up to 40% off my favorite socks from Camel City Mill. Plus, they have a 10-year durability guarantee, which means that if you get a hole or a tear in your sock in the first 10 years, they'll replace them for free. I know that a lot of our viewers are DIYers or work in the trades, which is why I'm really happy to be doing this ad. I really, really like these socks. So the freezer box is here in this corner underneath the counter. My mom and I built this a couple years ago now. There are a few things I need to do before I can put in the freezer, and the first is to install some trim. I'm using Meranti as the trim, which will be throughout the boat. These pieces are just 3/16 inch thick strips that I glued to the perimeter to seal up the raw edges using Total Boat's Fast Cure Thick Sew Epoxy. I did the same on the lid. The things that are remaining to be done to finish the box itself are, first, the lid doesn't have any insulation on it, so I need to build the insulation up on the underside of the lid. I need to paint the inside of the box, and then we can go ahead and start installing the compressor and the plates. Once the trim was done, I needed to insulate the lid. I cut out a piece of 2-inch thick XPS foam and inserted it into the freezer with some double-sided tape. And then I set the lid on it to correctly position the lid on the insulation. Then it was marked and ready for gluing. I used more Sailboat high-performance epoxy thickened with silica and clamped the foam to the lid. Then I glassed the underside of the lid. I'm using 1708 double bias with matte, which will make a very hard and impact resistant lid. I vacuum bagged the glass because it just makes a lamination tighter and lighter. Next project is to paint the inside of the freezer box. What I'm using is the Inner Protect from 2000E from Interlux. This is the same stuff you paint the bottom of your boat with for the barrier coats. It's the same stuff I'm going to be painting the keel with. It's a really hard epoxy primer, and another option would be to use gel coat. This stuff to me is really easy to use and, like I said, makes a really hard coat. It doesn't have UV inhibitors in it, and so if it were left exposed to the sun, it would yellow and degrade a bit. But since it's inside a freezer box, it's going to be dark in there all the time, so I'm not worried about it yellowing. Even if it did, it's inside of a freezer box, so it doesn't matter. We're going to go put another coat on. Finally, it was time to install the freezer. The refrigerant lines will pass through the box and through the next forward bulkhead where the compressor will be installed. Getting the cold plates in position showed me where the hole should go. It's about 6 inches of material that I had to drill through to make the hole using my hole saw. A little upgrade that I did was to install a fiberglass tube in the hole to seal the raw edge of the hole that the refrigerant lines pass through. The refrigerant lines do sweat, and water could work its way into the foam insulation, which I don't want. Now that I knew where the refrigerant lines came through the bulkhead, I could install the compressor.
I glued in a wood mounting block, painted it, and then used an old piece of 1/4 inch thick aluminum angle as the mount. The compressor has to stay 1.5 inches away from the wall to allow airflow out of the compressor box. I actually drilled my own mounting holes and bolted the compressor to the plate. Now for the fun part. I started installing the freezer by installing the cold plates. These are stainless steel plates that the refrigerant lines run through. For a freezer, there are 2 of them on opposite sides of the freezer. The instruction manual asks that they be installed as high as possible in the compartment. Seafrost provides these very convenient rubber rivet nuts that seal the mounting holes and also separate the cold plate from the wall. Having as much cold plate surface area exposed to the compartment as possible is most efficient. Passed the refrigerant lines through the bulkhead and shaped them to flow nicely into the compressor. A lot of care has to be taken here to make sure that no kinks are bent into the refrigerant lines. I like to use a roll of tape to form any bends in the copper tubes. Then all the quick connect fittings were assembled.
Okay, I got the underside of the lid painted, so I'm going to go ahead and install the lid for the last time. I just realized that I'll have to take this thing off again to do the varnishing. This is my very handy fake handle. Okay, so I installed the spring which holds the door open. Let's check out how well it works and how tight it fits. Really happy with how that turned out. Okay, this is the last part to install on the compressor. It's just the cover plate. All right, before we finish up this installation, we're gonna give a short little tour of everything. This is the compressor unit here that's been wired in. I just have the boat hasn't been wired in or anything. We don't have batteries or anything yet. We're just getting started installing the systems. And so I have this thing wired to a small power supply. The compressor unit, and then this is the lines that are filled with refrigerant that go to the cold plates that are in the freezer box. The freezer box is right on the other side of this wall right here. There's about a 6-inch hole, 6-inch long hole that goes through this bulkhead and through the freezer box. It leads both the lines as well as the thermometers into the freezer box. I've got those lines really well insulated, which is something that Seafrost sends in their kit, is the insulation for the lines. Another thing you'll notice is the ducting. So the air is being drawn into the compressor. We want to keep this thing nice and cool, so it's drawn into the compressor here. And then the exhaust is going is hot air and it's going to want to rise. And so I've actually drilled a couple holes in this countertop, and there's a louver on top of here. Air is actually getting drawn in from the bilge, nice cool air from the bilge, and then it's exhausted out the top. We want really good airflow through here so that it keeps the compressor cool. And then lastly, you can see this is called the ETT, it's the electronic thermostat. This is what controls the whole thing. And so this is where I set the temperature for when the compressor turns on and off based on the temperature of the cold plate. And you can adjust the speed of the fan on here. It's a very cool little device. Some people like to have this device displayed out in the galley where they can control it all the time, change the temperatures and stuff. I prefer to have mine hidden back away outside of the galley where it's not showing lights all the time. What I am going to do is wire a light that's telling me when the compressor is running. It's just one small little LED. It tells me when the compressor is running, so if I ever have a problem, if it's for some reason running all the time, I'll be able to see that light coming on all the time. But this ETT is going to be back behind, inside the cabinet where the compressor is. We are going to fire it up, show you how it works, and then we'll finish the installation by putting the cover back on. Just gonna put the cover plate on. So I think this looks really good. It'll take a couple hours to let the box cool down, but in the meantime, let's give a tour of the inside of the freezer box. So I'm also really happy with how this freezer box turned out. There are 2 cold plates, and that's because it's a freezer. They want 2 plates on either side of the box. He has custom plates or all different sizes of plates that you can install into these refrigerator or freezer boxes. Also installed in here are 2 thermometers. One is for taking the temperature of the box. The other is taking the temperature of the cold plate. Yeah, as you can see, there's 1 freezer plate on either side from each other. They're connected with the refrigerant lines. I just turned this thing on, the compressor. I can already see that there's frost developing on these refrigerant lines, and so I can tell that it's working. So it's been a few days since I installed this freezer, and I actually got the gasket installed that came in the other day that's on the underside of the lid, and I've been running this freezer. It's working really, really well. It's staying down around less than 5 degrees. Yeah, I can't thank Seafrost and Cleve enough for this freezer. We're very proud to have it on board. We're gonna have some ice cream out of our new freezer. Mint chip. Yum. Yum?
Yum, yum.
Inspector.
Inspector, your bride is over here.
Mine. Mine.
Mine?
Mine?
The ice cream is thoroughly solid.
No.
Mm?
No.
Yum.
Yum!
We have a new patron to thank this week. John is from Sweden, and he has been spending a lot of time refitting his H28. It's a 27-foot sailboat. Last winter he spent working on the interior, and he's just spent a bunch of time working on the bottom, and it's looking really good. He and his brother are planning on sailing around Sweden and down into Denmark. So thank you very much to John. Thank you so much to everybody who's been supporting our project, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Happy Thanksgiving to those of us celebrating that this week.